The rain came down in cold sheets, soaking through his tattered hoodie in seconds. He had nowhere to go. No one waiting. Just the sidewalk beneath his sneakers and the storm screaming above. But that night, something shifted. Through the curtain of rain, a figure stumbled, lost and shivering. Not just wet, shaken. Like she'd walked out of another world. She wore heels that didn't belong in puddles, and eyes that didn't belong on these streets. He watched her try to shield herself with a silk scarf, failing. Her mascara ran like ink across porcelain skin. He didn't recognize her face yet. Didn't know the cameras had once adored her. All he saw was someone more lost than him. He stepped forward without thinking, holding out the broken umbrella he'd dug from a trash can a week ago. She froze, then looked up. And in that moment, under that fractured canopy of rust and plastic, everything quietly rewrote itself. He hadn't spoken to anyone that day. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. The world passed him like a blur, indifferent, cold. But now, beneath the sputtering cover of shared silence, something shifted. The woman didn't ask who he was or why he was out here alone. She just let the quiet hang. Her heels tapped in sync with his scuffed sneakers, an odd duet. Eventually she said, "Thank you." He didn't answer right away. What could he say? That he was used to being invisible? That saving someone, anyone, felt like touching sunlight for the first time in weeks? He nodded instead. That was enough. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was safe. They moved through it like an unspoken pact. She walked slower now, not out of weakness but trust. She wasn't afraid of this boy, this stranger. Her breathing steadied. She glanced sideways and saw him glance away quickly. A shy instinct. "Do you live around here?" she asked. He hesitated. "Sort of." She read the gap in his voice, the truth beneath it. She nodded. No pity. Just awareness. A woman used to hiding and being hidden. "You saved me," she said. He smiled slightly. "You looked like you needed someone too." He led her toward the alley where he kept dry cardboard and a rusted fire barrel. Not a home, but something resembling safety. She didn't flinch. In fact, she seemed relieved not to be ushered into some bright, sterile lobby. "This is yours?" she asked. He shrugged. "For now." The fire crackled, dim and unsure, but it cast shadows that made the alley feel like a secret room. She sat beside him on a crate, her wet dress clinging like memory. For a moment, they didn't speak. Then she whispered, "You don't know who I am, do you?" He looked at her and shook his head. "Should I?" She laughed, not the polished kind from red carpets or cameras, but a broken, tired chuckle. "No, that's the best part." He handed her a dented thermos of something warm. She accepted it with both hands, savoring the heat more than the contents. "I used to be someone," she said. "Maybe I still am. But tonight, I was just a woman in the rain." He nodded again, this time with more understanding. The storm outside their alley still raged, but inside, a fragile calm settled. Two lives, colliding in the most unexpected place. And neither of them would ever be the same again. By morning the rain had stopped, but the chill stayed. He woke to the sound of her breathing. Soft, rhythmic, human. For someone used to alley echoes and sleepless nights, it was oddly grounding. She was still there. Not a dream. Not a ghost. She sat cross-legged now, her dress wrapped around her like armor, combing her fingers through damp hair. "You're not like the others," she said, voice low. He shrugged, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Not sure that's good or bad." She smiled. "It's rare." For a second, he almost believed he was something more than a shadow on these streets. "You never told me your name," he said. She paused, then said, "Call me Elara." It wasn't the name the tabloids knew, but it was hers today. That was enough. As the sun climbed, the alley began to feel exposed. People would wake soon. The world would stir. She stood up, stretching slowly, every movement careful and deliberate. "I need to go," Elara said. Her voice lacked urgency, like she didn't want to believe it herself. He nodded but looked away. "You don't owe me anything," he muttered. She moved closer. "That's not what this is." She fished into a hidden pocket and pulled out a small worn card. No logos. Just a name and a number. "If you ever decide to stop disappearing," she said, handing it to him. He didn't take it at first. "What's the catch?" She smiled faintly. "No catch, just, maybe I'd like to see who you are when you're not hiding." He watched her disappear around the corner like fog dissolving in light. The card stayed in his palm, trembling slightly from more than just the cold. He stared at it. No name he recognized. No hint of who she truly was. But her words echoed louder than the city noise that returned with the day. He could go back to the blur, the invisibility. Or try something else. He folded the card and slipped it into his sock, his only secure pocket. Then he stood. Stiff limbs groaned against gravity, but something had shifted inside him. He didn't know her world, but he'd seen her eyes when she thanked him. And that had weight. He wandered downtown, unsure of where he was going, just walking, as if his legs might answer questions his heart couldn't. Around him, the world buzzed as usual. Cars honked. Shopkeepers yelled. But he moved through it like a phantom. That is, until he saw it. A massive billboard high above the buildings. Her face, pristine, unknown, composed. Not the woman from the alley, but someone unreal. A headline below, "Where's Elara Langdon?" His breath caught. That name. So she hadn't lied. She hadn't needed to. Now the pieces twisted in his mind. Why was someone like her out there alone in the rain? What had she been running from? Or who? He sat on the curb beneath that billboard for what felt like hours. People passed oblivious. His mind raced. He'd sheltered a runaway icon, and she'd left behind more questions than answers. But one thing pulsed louder than all of it, her offer. That car. That chance. He fished it from his sock, stared again. The number still glared back. No name. Just possibility. Slowly, he rose, walked to the payphone inside the corner liquor store, the kind that barely worked. Fingers shaking, he dropped in the last of his change and dialed. 1 ringed. 2, dial. Then a calm voice answered, "You've reached the office of Elara Langdon. Who may I say is calling?" He froze. The voice was crisp, professional, nothing like the woman wrapped in a soaked dress by a fire barrel. "Oh," he stammered. "I found her. I mean, I was with her last night." There was silence on the other end. Then the voice softened, cautious now. "Please hold." A pause. Then a new voice, familiar, layered with exhaustion and steel, came through. "You called," Elara said. He exhaled. "Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should." She let the silence linger. "I wasn't sure you would." He shifted his weight. "You left fast." "I had to," she said. "People are looking for me." He glanced up at the billboard again. "I saw. It's not what you think," she said. "None of it is." He nodded, more to himself than her. "So what now?" A longer pause. Then, "Come to the address on that card. Ask for me, don't lose it." The address led him uptown, to a world of glass and silence. Skyscrapers loomed like gods, their mirrored faces untouched by rain or pain. He stood outside a sleek, black building, oversized revolving doors, reflecting his dirty hoodie and worn jeans. The security guard looked him over with suspicion. "You sure you got the right place, kid?" the man asked. He nodded and showed the card. The guard raised an eyebrow, typed something into a console, then handed him a temporary badge. 10th floor, don't touch anything." The elevator ride felt like a spaceship launch, his reflection multiplying across polished walls, his pulse louder than the gentle music. When the doors opened, a waiting assistant greeted him with a nod. "She's expecting you." He stepped into a suite, that felt more like a gallery than an office. Clean lines, velvet chairs, a soft scent of lavender and paper. Elara stood by the window, backlit by skyline light. She'd changed, physically, yes, in a clean blazer and hair swept back, but more than that. Her posture was regal now, composed. Still, when she turned, he saw the woman from the rain behind her eyes. "Welcome," she said, voice softer than the setting. "This is real?" he asked. She smiled. "As real as it gets." He looked around. "What is this place?" "My company," she said simply. "Or what's left of it?" He frowned. "Why me?" She stepped closer. "Because when I had no one you saw me, and I don't forget that." They sat across from each other now, separated by a table that felt more symbolic than practical. "You said people were looking for you," he said. Elara nodded. "There are people who don't want me in charge anymore. My name, my image, it's worth more to them broken." He tried to understand. "You disappeared on purpose? To survive," she said. "They tried to erase me. But I needed one night away from it all to remember who I was." She studied him. "And you reminded me." He shook his head. "I didn't do anything." "You did everything," she said. "You didn't ask for anything. You didn't judge, you just gave." The silence returned. Warm now. Trust forming, like morning light. She stood again, walked to a drawer, and pulled out a file. "This was prepared months ago," she said. "For someone else, but I think it belongs to you now." She handed it over. Inside, papers, keys, an ID badge. His name printed where another had been scratched out. "What is this?" he asked. "A chance," she said. "An internship, shelter, food, a real path." He stared at the folder, then at her. "Why me?" Her answer was simple. "Because you didn't ask for anything, but gave me back everything." His hands trembled slightly as he accepted it. Somewhere deep inside, the version of him that had only known hunger and cold began to flicker with something dangerous. Hope. The apartment was small, clean, and warm. 3 things he hadn't experienced in the same space in years. He stood just inside the doorway, the file still clutched in one hand like a life raft. A woman from the company had driven him here, handed him the keys and said, "Fresh start." He didn't speak much, just nodded and stepped into the silence. The fridge buzzed softly. A bed waited in the corner, neatly made. On the table sat a box of essentials, soap, canned food, socks. He reached out, touched the wall, half expecting it to vanish. It didn't. He dropped the file on the mattress and sat down slowly, his weight creaking the springs. For the first time in what felt like forever, he closed his eyes and didn't feel fear. Just quiet. The internship wasn't glamorous. It started with errands, coffee runs, organizing files, updating spreadsheets. But for him, it was everything. Every click of a keyboard, every email sent felt like proof that he was here. Real. Real. The other interns barely noticed him at first. Polished, confident kids from better neighborhoods. But he learned fast. Quiet, observant. He showed up early, stayed late. And slowly, Elara's name started opening doors. "He's one of hers," someone whispered. That meant something. It protected him in invisible ways. Still, the question echoed inside him. How long could this last? How long until someone asked where he really came from? One afternoon, Elara called him into her office. Her expression was unreadable, eyes flicking between calm and caution. "I need to ask you something," she said. He tensed. "Okay." She pushed forward a photo, grainy, taken from afar. A man. Young. Older. Whiny. Sharp features. Dangerous presence. "Do you know him?" she asked. The boy's throat dried. "Yeah," he whispered. "That's my stepfather." Her jaw tightened. "He's not just anyone, he's connected to the people who tried to take my company." Silence dropped heavy between them. How? He asked. Elara sat back. That's what I need to find out. And I think you might help me do it. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in the apartment, the picture of his stepfather etched into his thoughts. Memories clawed their way back, shouts, fists, the sound of a door locking behind him. He had run from that man. Hid for years. Now fate had led him here, to a woman hunted by the same force. Was it coincidence? Or something darker? He stared at the ceiling, then at the card still tucked into his wallet. He'd used it once. It had changed everything. Could he use it again, this time not to escape, but to confront? The idea terrified him, but something deeper urged him forward. Maybe it was time to stop running. The next morning, he walked into Elara's office before she'd even arrived. He placed the photo back on her desk and stood there waiting. When she entered, her brows lifted in surprise. "You've made a decision," she said. He nodded. "I know where he is, and I know how to get close." Elara's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. "You don't have to do this." He met her gaze. "I think I do. For you, and for me." She studied him for a long moment, then slowly sat down. "Then we do it together. No secrets." He nodded again, more firmly this time. No more hiding. In that moment, the boy who once offered shelter with a broken umbrella became something else entirely, someone willing to face the storm. They began with a plan. Elara gave him access, carefully, methodically. Old contact lists, event records, internal memos. His stepfather's name appeared more than once, always buried, always tied to shell companies and whispers. The boy worked late into the night, tracing threads others had missed. Every discovery felt like a wound reopening, but also like a step forward. Elara stayed close, guiding him without pushing. She knew this wasn't just strategy, it was survival. "He used to talk about powerful people," the boy murmured one night. "People who owed him." Elara nodded. "And I bet he kept receipts." They both understood. If they could find proof, real proof, everything could change. The deeper they dug, the darker it got. Bank transfers, coded emails, offshore accounts. The boy's stepfather hadn't just been involved, he'd been orchestrating things. The pieces fit too well. A hostile takeover had failed only because Elara vanished. But now she was back, and they were watching. One morning, she found her office door ajar. Nothing missing, just slightly moved. A warning. "They know," she told him. He clenched his fists. "Let them come." She touched his shoulder. "No, we don't escalate, we expose." That night, he copied the final files to a secure drive. "This is it," he whispered. "The proof." Elara nodded. "Then we end this." Elara set the press meeting herself. A closed room. Select journalists. No leaks. They needed this to land like thunder. The boy waited just off stage, watching her transform. Her hair pulled back. Voice steady. The icon returned, but this time on her own terms. "I was nearly erased," she began, "by people who claimed loyalty." Cameras flashed. Pens scratched. Then, she dropped the name. His stepfather's. The room fell still. "We have records, we have evidence, and we will not be silenced." The boy watched through the side curtain, heart pounding. She wasn't hiding anymore. And because of that, neither was he. The fallout was immediate. Headlines exploded. Investigations launched. His stepfather disappeared, vanished from his last known location. But the truth was out. And now, it had weight. Elara's team shielded the boy, but whispers began. Who was he? Where did he come from? When one tabloid published a blurry photo of the two of them from that rainy night, the world tilted again. Elara found him pacing in the apartment. "They know," he said. "They'll twist it." She stepped closer. "Let them. We have the truth." He looked at her, scared. I don't want to be a headline. She nodded. Then don't be. Be the reason it changes. Later that night, they stood on the rooftop above her building. The city stretched in all directions, alive and unknowable. I didn't ask for this, he said quietly. But I think I'm ready. Elara looked out over the lights. We rarely ask for our purpose, but when it finds us, we either run or rise. He glanced at her, the woman who had once stumbled through rain like a ghost, now a fortress. And he, once invisible, stood beside her. So what happens now? He asked. She smiled, distant but sure. Now, we build something no one can break. In the wind between them, the past scattered. And the future, trembling, began to take shape. Months passed. The headlines quieted, but the shifts ran deeper than the news cycle. The boy, now introduced by name Lucas, was no longer just the intern. He had a desk, a title, and a voice people began to listen to. Elara never treated him like a project. She listened. She taught. And when he spoke in meetings, she let silence fall after, so his words could land. Still, not everything came easily. Some questioned his sudden rise. Others whispered he was a puppet. Lucas faced it all quietly. Let them talk, Elara once said. You've already lived through worse. And he had. The worst part of being invisible was no longer feeling it. Now, with eyes on him, he felt something stranger, visible, and worthy. One evening, Lucas returned to the alley. The barrel was gone. The cardboard too. Just brick, wet from a recent rain. He stood there a long time, breathing in the silence, the ghosts. This was where everything changed. Where he'd offered shelter to someone who didn't need saving, but needed reminding. He took out the scarf she had left behind that night. He'd kept it all this time, buried in a drawer. Damp, frayed, still holding the shape of that moment. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He just stood and remembered. Then, slowly, gently, he folded the scarf again and left it on the crate. Some symbols shouldn't be kept. They should be returned to where they started. Elara began stepping back, quietly, intentionally. Board meetings she once dominated were now led by her proteges. And at the center of that shift was Lucas. It's time, she told him one day. For what? He asked. For me to stop leading and start building something else. You'll take this forward. The idea terrified him. I don't know everything. She smiled. Neither did I. He stared at her. She was no longer just a survivor. She was something rarer, a builder of bridges. And now, she was handing him the blueprint. Don't try to be me, she said. Be the one who helped me remember who I was. The first board meeting Lucas led didn't go perfectly. He stumbled through the first few slides, forgot someone's name. But then he caught himself. Breathed. Remembered the cold rain, the quiet alley, the broken umbrella. He steadied, found his pace, his voice. By the end, people nodded. Not in politeness, but in belief. Elara watched from the back, unseen. She smiled once, then turned and left before it ended. Not because she doubted, but because she didn't need to witness it. He wasn't her shadow anymore. He was his own force. And she had more storms to chase, and other lives to rewrite. That evening, Lucas found himself walking without purpose. Just the rhythm of his shoes on pavement, the city pulsing around him. He passed by a bakery, a bus stop, a violinist playing under soft lamplight. The world didn't know who he was, not fully. But for the first time, he didn't feel like a stranger to it. He stopped at a corner where the rain began to fall again. Light this time. Gentle. And then he laughed. Not loud. Not bitter. Just clean. Because he understood something now. He hadn't just helped Elara that night in the storm. She had helped him. Two lost people colliding not in desperation, but in timing. And that timing had given him a future. Months later, Lucas was invited to speak at a youth shelter fundraiser. It wasn't his world, not yet, but he knew its language. He stood backstage, heart pounding, palms sweating. He wasn't afraid of crowds anymore. He was afraid of not being honest. When they called his name, he walked out to polite applause. The lights were hot, the room too quiet. He took a breath. A few years ago, I slept on benches. I survived on silence. And one night, I helped a stranger in the rain. Murmurs flickered. That stranger changed everything. But not because she gave me a future. Because she reminded me I already had one. The room went still. Then slowly, hands clapped. Not for a storybook ending. For a story still unfolding. After the event, a girl around 16 waited for him outside the hall. Her hoodie was too big, eyes too tired. "Is it real?" she asked. "Everything you said?" Lucas crouched slightly, eye level now. It was real enough to break me, and real enough to rebuild me. She didn't cry, just nodded, then walked off. He stood there a long time, watching her vanish into the city's hush. He remembered that age, that fear, and he remembered the feeling of not being invisible, even for one night. "Shall make it," Elara said, stepping beside him. He hadn't heard her arrive. "How do you know?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Because you reminded her she could." Elara had changed too. She no longer sought headlines or boardrooms. Instead, she founded a new organization, one that caught those falling through the cracks. Lucas walked into her new office one morning to find her boxing up old awards. "You're leaving again?" he asked. "Evolving," she replied. "The spotlight doesn't build anything, but hands do." He helped her stack the boxes. "So where will you go?" She smirked. "Wherever I'm needed least and wanted most." Lucas laughed. "That sounds impossible." She handed him a sealed envelope. "Then you'll know exactly where to find me." He didn't open it. Not yet. Some gifts unfold when they're meant to. On the anniversary of that rainy night, Lucas returned to the spot where it all began. The alley was cleaner now, gentrified maybe, but the spirit hadn't changed. He carried no umbrella this time. Just a single white rose. He placed it where the crate once stood, a symbol not of mourning, but of memory. The sky darkened gently, the scent of distant rain rising. He looked up, the clouds mirroring that night, but his heart felt nothing like it. Behind him, voices from a nearby cafe echoed with life. He didn't step away from them this time. He joined the crowd. The world hadn't changed to fit him. He had changed to meet it. He stood just outside the cafe door, hesitating. Through the glass he saw people laughing, talking, living. He didn't feel like a stranger. Not anymore. He stepped inside, let the warmth hit him, the light blind him for a second. The barista greeted him like anyone else. No one stared. No one knew. He ordered tea, sat by the window, watched the street as droplets began to fall. He reached into his pocket, not for a card, not for a badge, but for a pen. He began to write. Not for business, not for strategy, just to remember. And across the street, a girl paused in the rain. Soaked. Lost. Lucas stood, umbrella in hand. One more time.